these awesome panelists for a chat all about aesthetic and the feed and what that means in 2019, how it's evolved, where it's headed. We'll start with some intros.
Okay. Hi, I'm Erin. I'm an account director at Something Social, which is a social media and digital agency here in Los Angeles.
I'm Micah, Heykoop. I'm the managing director at Matte Black. We're a creative studio here in Los Angeles.
And I'm Jordan Hughes. I'm the social media lead at Ritual.
So with so much going on in stories right now, that's like really where things are headed, and IGTV, how important do you think the feed is at the moment? What's your take?
It's definitely still an important factor. It might not be as important as it was, but I think it's still a great, really like instant snapshot to get a feel for the brand that you're looking at.
I would agree. I think it's kind of like your calling card. So if someone's coming by to check you out for the first time, I think that they're going to get the vibe there of what you're about, what the brand looks like. It should be just like a picture of what's going on and what you have to offer them. And then from there, stories kind of takes it over.
Yeah. The same thing. We call it like a Google replacement at this point. Like the first place you'd go is Instagram and type in a brand rather than going to Google. And so as long as the relevant information's there, like whether you've saved your new products or like that first like thumb scroll of like 18 images looks good, we're happy. And it doesn't even have to look all a certain way, but as long as it tells the story you're trying to tell in that moment, that seems to be the best.
Got it.
Yeah.
So in terms of aesthetic, you think story, you're telling the story, so brand to brand that's going to be different.
Yeah, and it's
whether that looks good or not.
I don't think brands, like, you're not running the brand in terms of like how do all these moments relate to each other from a design perspective, especially when you're big enough. Like at this point, I feel like when you first start out, it means so much because you're trying to establish like your point of view. And so like maybe you guys even felt this way in the beginning of Ritual, like it mattered so much and it had to look this way. But like if we think about, we do a lot of social, like digital content for Nike, and social is like a tool and a piece that they're using. But just because like launching this new pair of Air Maxes doesn't relate to what they're doing with Run this week, like it doesn't matter, right? As long as it's all under Nike. And so that's more of our take. You just don't plan that way, so it's hard to always say these things have to look perfect together.
Right, when there's multiple stories and multiple campaigns going on same grid, it can be impossible when different teams are collaborating to create one grid. What do you think about the trend of the no edit? Are you still about an edit? What's your vibe?
I'm still about an edit, but I do love that Instagram is becoming more of an open, unedited place, and I think it's really important that it heads that way. But from a brand point of view, I do think keeping a specific edit for your brand is still an important part of it.
VSCO or Lightroom?
Ooh, depends. I have no favorites.
VSCO then Lightroom.
Oh.
Just
Yeah.
doubles up.
Visco for me. It's
Yeah.
Visco for me or nothing. Yeah. I love Visco. I also think that the no edit is huge, and like when you see like this next generation of content creators coming up, they're so into that, and I think there's a lot to be said there. But I think when you're working with a brand, you're creating a brand, you build in the brand voice and everything falls under that. So if you're going to even do the no edit, it should still fall under what the brand's position is, what their point of view is, how their voice would interact.
How do you integrate things like memes or like regrams or things that are just gonna look ugly on the grid, and that's just like, that's kind of the power to it? How do you integrate that while still considering your aesthetic?
I mean, Ritual is so specific with, it actually makes it easy because we have these really carved out brand colors and this really beautiful approach from our creative team. So just adding those little elements in that make it still feel lo-fi, make it still feel organic in their feed, but just kind of owning it a little bit. Like whenever we would do a meme, we would do like the little yellow border, or if we're gonna do like text on top, it's always our brand colors. And even in the grid, they might not, feel like they're getting served content from a brand. It's more like something their friends would show them or that they'd interact with on a meme account, but at the same time, it still feels ownable to us.
Yeah.
And is that from the perspective of the look of your grid, or is that from the perspective of brand recognition as you're scrolling?
Probably more brand recognition, but something we were talking about before we came in here is the way that our point of view is that everything should feel, we don't look at the grid as much as like this big holistic thing, like it has to all fit like piece by piece. It's more that if you are considering the brand with every image, it's going to naturally flow into the grid because it feels, every single one will feel like Ritual talking.
I feel like, funny enough, when I land on a brand, if they have posted a meme, that is what I click on more than like anything.
Totally.
I'm just like, this is probably gonna make me laugh.
Yeah.
Like I literally just looked at one on Ritual because we were talking before this, and it was a dog smiling, and it was about how Ritual vitamins and a good night's sleep are the things that make. And I was just like, yes, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So I don't
What
know.
do you need?
Yeah.
I completely agree. I think the memes they're fun and they're really relatable content, but it's great if you can add the yellow border or you can do something that still will, bring people joy, but then they're like, oh, that was from Ritual. Cool.
Yeah. You guys run a lot of social accounts, right? Is there anyone who you have a hard and fast no meme rule for? I feel like if you let them decide what meme, like that's bad, right?
yeah.
Like if there's no one in control of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially with clients because they take everything so personally, and then
Yeah.
it becomes their account, and it's not their account, it's their brand's account.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have any accounts that specifically are like a hard no on memes,
Yeah.
but we do have some where there's no memes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't get the best engagement.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
What would you say are the like top brand markers in a feed or on like aesthetically? We've talked about colors. We've talked about just like adding those brand elements. What are those brand elements in a nutshell for you?
I think the thing that actually now matters a lot that people miss is motion. I think people overthink video in a lot of ways where they're like, if you're going to, they think about video as opposed to motion. And so like you can do something that has some visual interest to it without being like, we have to cut together a video because the barrier to entry seems so high, but literally like an effect or like making it play as a slideshow, even inside, like that can be such a good signature, and it can be so simple, even just doing something that like moves like a clock, moves to the left, whatever it is. And that's like, that can be such a great ownable thing that people overcomplicate because they're just like immediately like, we don't have capability for video or budget for video.
Yeah.
I think color is obviously a huge one.
Yeah, I think a lot of brands can get so hung up on having to have these super highly produced videos. And I mean, they're great if you can get them, but I completely agree. You can put like 2 photos together to make a quick little GIF, and it'll be great.
You're gonna get that video algorithm boost
exactly.
anyways.
Yeah,
Exactly.
or just like the best piece of paid content you could have. And I remember like specifically talking through this story with one of these like really modern healthcare companies, like One Health. Their best ad, they shot one video for $100,000 and had one person working at the store do a selfie video explaining, and that was probably, it was like 5 or 6 times higher ROI than the one they shot. Like overthinking is so bad when it comes to that as long as you just like, it can be something signature to you, it can be something cool. It's like, it can be that no edit.
I also think that there's something that people underutilize, and it's like using those lo-fi things in your tool belt that you can quickly like do something that feels recognizable to an everyday user that they can actually interact with, and then you make that your thing. So something that we've been doing for a couple months is when we get a selfie, everybody can post a selfie, any brand, like cosmetic brand, any vitamin brand, like people holding the product. How can we do something that feeds into who we are as a brand, which is a morning company? So what we did was we started asking them, what time do you take your vitamins? Like in the morning. And then we just used the Instagram story timestamp, and we just added it to selfies. And now what we see back is usable UGC from people that are using that same function to tell a story with us. So I think finding the ways within the platform that users can actually interact with and to create that UGC for you, it also plays into like, when someone sees that, it's not just a selfie, it's got some recognizable feature that is tied to who we are, even though it's technically not even something that we own. It's something that we're using.
So is there like a style to the timestamp, or is it just purely the actual content that's the brand recognition versus the actual look?
I mean, I think for me, it's like the brand recognition, it's the actual look. It's that like they can use that. It feels, when they've seen it repeated, it feels like Ritual, and then they can take it and apply it to their own feed.
So we've talked a little bit about video and how we need to just break the stigma and just do it, even if it's just a GIF or like a little twinkle or just something discreet to make it into a video. How do you make that still beautiful or still something that you're proud to serve up to a client or that you're proud to post, or do you not care?
I think it's, again, super dependent on the brand. You know, we have some brands where they want that really underproduced look and like someone just kind of threw it together and it looks, I don't want to say homemade, but you know, that kind of vibe. And then we do have brands that, you know, they have brand specific GIFs that we always use, or, you know, in certain apps, we have certain things that we'll do. We've been using Mojo a lot, which is just a really great app for making quick little videos that
I'm obsessed.
are great. I know. They're so good. But yeah, that's what we've been doing.
They just added custom fonts too, so you can like
Did
really
they?
make
Oh
it
my
branded.
gosh.
Yeah. You can just airdrop over your fonts. It's so great. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think, and I think like it's probably a mistake to say that simple things aren't like a part of your brand aesthetic. Like you can't, like I think simplicity is probably something that we give like some of the best, like most luxury brands in the world. Is something they do well. And so really it's like aesthetic could even be switched out at this point for point of view. Like the most important thing is just have a point of view and do that. Like I always think Instagram's a bit nuts in the way that someone's giving you permission to advertise to them for free every day. So like you just have to respect that idea. And so as long as you can offer them a point of view and it's the thing that they wanted up front and you're giving them more of that, that's great. And just because it's simple doesn't mean it's not, like it doesn't look elegant or it doesn't look how your brand's supposed to look.
How do you evolve within that then? If the promise was made and the follow.
Yeah, I mean, it's like just look at the way Instagram's an extension of your brand, right? Like if you were thinking about your Instagram more than you're thinking about developing your own internal brand, like you're gonna die anyway. Like your Instagram evolves as you evolve. Like you have to be launching new products. You're actually doing things, right? I think people can see past the fact that you can pop up a brand online in the course of a day now. Like you have to do things in real life. You have to, like, this is why people love seeing individuals with a product and seeing UGC. Like there's this idea of like perceived brand depth that you need to show. And like the brand evolves the Instagram does not evolve the brand. You have to move the right direction in that.
And the customers are evolving with the brand as well. So I think you're doing them, you're doing your followers a disservice if you aren't evolving with them.
So as far as planning your grid goes, we've kind of talked about the importance and lack of maybe in terms of like, we're not talking puzzle grids or anything too involved, but still that importance to it being essentially your homepage now. How do you plan in advance? What's the process?
For me, I try to gather, I kind of will plan out what we need to be communicating that week, and then we will go through our images, edit all of our content, see what we need, what we don't need to use that week, what we will use that week, and then I pull it all until later, and I will schedule it out, make sure it looks good, and yeah, go from there.
I mean, I wish I could give people more advice than it just feels right for us. But honestly, yeah, like I said, in terms of imagery, every piece should feel complementary. It should make the puzzle work. If that's like your calling card, every piece should feel like ritual. In terms of the content around it, there's obviously things we have to hit. We have campaigns, we have partnerships. There's things going on that like have to feed into the story. But at the same time, if someone's coming and they're new, they're learning about the product, there has to be a really nice balance of teaching about what the product is, talking about the science. The things that make ritual special are that there's so much science and there's so much care about, breaking the mold of the industry, giving people what they really need, not putting fillers and junk in their vitamins. So there's so much there that like we have to be educating them about over and over and over again. So I think that for us, it's more like how do we balance the fun of ritual, that brand voice, and then how do we also keep educating them about things going on and then things that we've already talked about if they're new. Yeah, so it just feels right. Sorry.
Do you guys ever post and then it makes you go back and archive something like 10 back?
I very much subscribe to like the Instagram like team's view of like it's a your post is like a raindrop in a thunderstorm. So I don't look at the grid obsessively. I would say that I choose to, if we would do that, I would be choosing to honor more the creative heart behind ritual. There's an amazing creative team. Our founder, Kat, is so creative. So anything I'm doing there is usually like, if it doesn't feel right, like, and the post wasn't totally essential to the vibe, like, yeah, we can archive it.
Yeah.
But I would say that we tend to look more like future than like looking reflective and being like, this, 20 posts back doesn't feel.
You wouldn't have got there in the first place.
Exactly,
like you wouldn't have gone up at that point.
We never post something that we're not obsessed with. We'd rather just skip the post. You don't have to post every single day if you're not doing something meaningful. Even if it's a meme, like the meme should feel meaningful. People should be excited about it in the company. Yeah.
Do you, what do you guys think about even like Cadence at this point? Because we have everything from brands that are like, we were recently working on the foundation launch for Anastasia Beverly Hills, and they're a brand that posts like 7 times a day. They're just like, and they kill it.
Yeah.
And then also we just launched this amazing brand called Drip Den that makes custom tees, like custom loose leaf tee. And like the whole strategy there is like stories only, and there's going to be 3 posts once a week that all go up on the same day.
Wow.
And so it's just like truncating like in
Yeah.
different ways. Like, do you guys have any? I'm going to try to just avoid saying it's case by case, but like, what do you prefer?
I personally prefer like having a specific schedule. So even if it is mainly IG stories every day and then 3, every Monday, I think it's really important to just stick to it. Whatever you're doing, stick to it. Don't switch it up.
I'm obsessed with testing. So I look at everything from the time we posted, the day we posted, the content we posted. So if a meme did well at 8 a.m. on a Monday versus 3 p.m. on a Thursday, like what would be, was it chance, or is there like some kind of rhythm here that like our audience is tuning in consistently at a certain time?
Yeah.
So for me, it's more, I would, specifically with Ritual, I would say that I look more at patterns and see how we can reach people.
Cool.
I just want to talk about aesthetic on stories a little bit because we brushed up on that like a touch. What's your take? Again, it's kind of, I think there's 2 schools of thought where it's just like on the go, on the fly, keep it the Instagram fonts. Don't like, if you're overly designing outside of app, it loses people. I think that's one school of thought, and then the other school of thought is keep it branded. You want that brand recognition. What's your take?
I think it's important to have both, only because it still keeps it real, it keeps it organic. You are a brand, so you are going to be sharing branded content that probably is more produced. But you also want to keep it real and either, repost people who have tagged you or, show some behind the scenes stuff at your company. I think those are just as important as the branded stories.
For me, another thing is, the first thing is test everything. So test your hi-fi content, test your lo-fi content, see what turns people onto the content, what turns people off. What I have found with Ritual is you start with a produced intro slide with us and people click out because they feel like they're being served an ad. So let's maybe not do that. So then how can you make something feel more natural in their feed? Well, if I'm doing a story takeover, it might keep them around a little bit longer because they're just seeing a face, and do they know this person? Like, it's a human being talking to them, so that might require them to stay around a little bit more. Basically, what I'm trying to say is look at the different things that your audience is engaging with, look at the cohesive health of a story, and see where you're losing people, where the exit rate is really high, where people aren't swiping up, why that happened, and then use that information to influence your future stories. And I think in terms of making them feel, like the brand, I think stories is an incredible place to have fun because you can use all these amazing apps to make this story a little bit more special, a little bit more visually interesting. But you can also stick to the platform and still do something really amazing. And Instagram has provided all these hacky tools for us to use elements for them to interact with us as well. So I would say, make it branded, make it feel like you in the feed, and then maybe try departing from that and try something that feels more organic and more friendly to them, that they would maybe not notice that it's a brand even. Yeah.
I think those 2 things fit together well too, because I think from the agency side, one of the things that we said, it's like, it's hard to all the time, like, well, it depends who you are, because it does, but I think that's not to say there isn't an answer, because I think you bring in what you're saying, like, there's an answer. It depends who you are, but there is a right way for you to do it. Totally. It just doesn't mean that right way is the right way for everyone to do it. So I think obviously testing it and like having some semblance of analytics in it, and just be like allowing yourself to look at like 1 or 2 key numbers and make some guesses. I think it's always like social sometimes gives you an aversion to anything outside of like kind of immediate response, like likes and comments, but or like following's the one thing that people get like transfixed on. But there is an answer for you, no matter what it is.
Totally. Yeah.
And I think you need to pick your KPIs and like really only commit to those, because when people try to be the best at everything, I don't want to say it's impossible, but it kind of sets your brand up for failure.
Totally. Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us today. We learned a ton. We got into some really interesting topics, and we loved having you. Thanks for watching.